Good morning, Ugly Mug marketing followers and friends. My name is Hannah Balliet, and I am the Director of Communications and Teaching here at Ugly Mug Marketing. Welcome to another edition of Coffee Chats, where we drink coffee and chat with experts that are on our team, but we're also going to have some external guests coming soon and chat all about marketing trends and everything that you need to know to take and scale your business to the next level. Today, I'm excited to be chatting with Alex Bjork. He is the social media department manager at Ugly Mug Marketing. I've passed the torch on to him, and I'm really excited to chat with him today because we're going to be talking all about lead generation, which is something that I am super passionate about, and I know that Alex is. So, Alex, welcome to Coffee Chats, and I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself while I grab my coffee.
Perfect. No, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Like Hannah said, my name is Alex Bjork. I manage our social media marketing team here at Ugly Mug. I have been at Ugly Mug now for about a year and a half. We're starting to turn up on 2 years, which feels pretty crazy. It's flying by, but no, I'm excited to be here.
Cool. So Alex, I'm like, let's just dive into the things because I think you and I both could talk about this for a really long time. And I try to keep these to at least 30 minutes. So, what is a lead generation campaign? For someone who is like, okay, I've heard about lead generation and it sounds like I would be getting a lot of unqualified people. Like, tell us about lead generation from the perspective of a Facebook lead generation campaign. What is it? How does it work?
Yeah, that's a great starting point for today. I think that's fair. No, I think everybody's probably familiar with seeing a Facebook lead generation campaign in some form on the customer side of things,
Yeah.
on the user side of things. And so essentially what it is when you're scrolling through Facebook or even Instagram and you see a graphic with a piece of copy, and then it normally has that call to action button there at the bottom. It either says get quote, learn more, things like that. What lead generation does is when somebody clicks on that button, it pulls up a form for folks to fill out. Now, the information on this form can be very wide as far as what information the company is collecting. So sometimes it's just an email if you're joining an email list. Sometimes it can be your name, your phone number, your email, your zip code to see if you're in a certain service area, things like that. So essentially what happens is a potential customer will go in, fill out that information, and then the company now owns that lead. So they can do with that lead whatever they wish. So
Yeah. And I think that's probably the most powerful and most important part is now you own that contact information. You've taken that person from the Facebook or the Instagram platform, and now you can communicate with them outside of that platform, which is super powerful. Okay, yes. So we have probably seen these and interacted with them without even knowing it, filled out one of these lead generation forms as a Facebook user or as a potential customer of someone. But my next question is, who is this for? Like, what industries can capitalize, I
yeah.
guess, on lead generation forms? Can anyone run a lead generation form? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think this is going to sound like the most general answer in the world, but it has to make sense for you and your company.
Okay.
I think there is probably a form of a lead generation campaign that anybody can run. Now,
Yeah.
if you are, I think the automatic default is I have to be selling a good or a service right away in order to have a lead generation form. And that's not true. I think a perfect example of that is growing your email list. So maybe you
Yeah.
run a lead generation campaign where folks are filling in their name, their email. And I know that we've done this for like a local coffee shop as well as like put in your birthday and we'll send you a free coffee coupon on your birthday. So
Yeah.
it's truly universal as far as the information that you want to collect in the industries that it's for. I think a lot of folks default to I have to be selling a good or service and it has to be an immediate turnaround. So
Yeah. Yeah. Growing your email list is crucial. And we talk about this a lot. The fact that you don't own your Facebook page, you don't own your Instagram page, you essentially, if you're putting all of your eggs in that basket and that's your only form of communication with your customers, you're in trouble, right? We need to have multiple outlets to be able to have communication with our customers. I'll never forget the day. Hannah Broom and I talked about this on our last coffee chat too, but I'll never forget the day. This was like during COVID, weirdly too, but like Facebook was down for like half of the day and everyone was freaking out. But you know who wasn't freaking out was the people who had an email list, the people who had taken the time to run those lead generation campaigns, gotten those Facebook likes and those followers and those engagers, and used a lead form to convert them into an email subscriber. So absolutely, it can be used that way. And sometimes though, that can be the long game, right? Like trying to sell someone who's on your email list instead of like initially like getting that lead and trying to immediately sell them on a service by picking up the phone and calling. But okay, so it needs to make sense for our business. It sounds like we need to have a really clear goal too on how we're going to utilize those lead generation forms. So it can work in various industries. Alex just said a coffee shop, and give me some other examples of different kinds of companies that you use lead generation forms for.
Yeah, so we have a lot of success right now with one that we do is with an apartment complex down in Louisiana. We originally, before they opened up, we used it just to grow their email list. And then once they transitioned into leasing, we used it for promotions, things like that, schedule a tour, all that kind of good stuff. So a lot of things with a lot of successes right now with the apartment complex. Abby does it with CMAP for the mammograms if you want to schedule your free mammogram.
Yeah.
So the possibilities are endless there.
Yeah, truly. I love that. Okay. So obviously the title of today's conversation was 13,000 leads in 18 months. So let's get to it. Talk to us about, first of all, tell us a little bit about the client that you're working with. And then tell us kind of the step-by-step process of how you were able to generate these 13,000 leads for this client.
Yeah. So we're going to try our best today to keep this abbreviated for you all. I think that Hannah can probably have a good, 6-hour chat about working from point A to point B, because it doesn't happen overnight. You're not throwing spaghetti at the wall, but this specific situation, it's an ownership group over HVAC and plumbing companies. And so they have about 40 locations spread out throughout the South. And what we do is we run various different lead generation campaigns related to their offers for the month. And so, for example, this last month, we ran one campaign for each location. That was a 0% financing offer. We ran another one that was a tune-up offer, like an end of summer tune-up. That was obviously down south. I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So we should have had furnace screw-ups 2 months ago because it's cold outside. But and then we'll do some type of brand awareness campaign to kind of partner with the lead generation as well. So working from point A to point B, it is a little bit more of a process than I think folks feel at times. And you start with all of the, I'll call them like the book of marketing tools. So your audience. So who are we targeting in this, and where are they hanging out, right? Does it make sense for us to run a lead generation campaign for our good or service on Facebook? If I'm a boutique, it probably makes sense that I'm also running it on Instagram, right? If I'm everybody's hanging out on Facebook in some type of way, but if I'm a community engagement, that's going to look a little bit different. Your lead generation campaign is going to look a little bit different than if you're selling a good or a service. So you're first looking at your audience and where those folks are hanging out. Now, next, you are developing an irresistible offer. So I think that's another misconception is folks, well, I'm going to start doing lead generation. And they say, okay, I'll launch a lead generation campaign and I'll just get a bunch of leads flowing into the system and I'll be a millionaire tomorrow. When in reality, you have to have some type of offer. You have to come up with something that's going to stop people from scrolling. If I see an ad in there and there's no incentive for me to fill it out, why would I do that? And you can't expect the same from your audience as well. So I think you have to develop that irresistible offer and then partner that with eye-catching graphics and a good piece of copy with a clear call to action as well. So that's a little bit more of the developing the ad strategy.
Yeah.
And then
I love that.
Oh, go ahead, Hannah.
No, I was just going to say like the irresistible like offer part. I think people get like really hung up on that. oftentimes I think in home services, particular with this client that you're working with, it is a 0% interest. It is like a financial offer, or it's like, hey, schedule this tune up for $89 or however much it may be. But on the flip side, there are some campaigns where you're not necessarily giving something away discounted or for free or anything like that. So just want to like really hit that point home that it does not have to be free or discounted. You can have really compelling copy where you're convincing someone that they need your service, especially for those of you that are in the home services industry. I'm thinking of one client that we work with that does leak detection, and they basically help people who have like cracks in their foundation, which is a very costly and very stressful thing as a homeowner. And that entire campaign that has been run for months and months and months and months, there is not one singular discount services, and people continue to fill out that form and inquire for more information. So I think it is important to note that although, yes, the financial incentive of a discount or some sort of exclusive offer in that capacity can be really compelling, it does not always have to be something that's free or discounted.
Yep, exactly. And I was just going to say that the last piece of the process, and I think this is probably the part that gets skipped over the most, would be to automate. And I think we're going to talk a little bit more about automation here in a minute, but that is something that can save you and your team a ton of time and effort. And then pivot is needed. I think that's another thing as well that people don't think about. They launch it and then they're like, okay, I'm done. I can now sit back and wait for the money to roll in, when you need to be monitoring that information. And a lot of things that we do at Ugly Mug, we'll run a split test to see what graphic is performing the best. And halfway through a month, you turn one off and you reallocate the money over to the one that's working. So you need to be able to pivot as you continue to go along as well. And I know that some people may be familiar with this who are watching, but there's a website that Facebook has called Ads Library, where you can go kind of spy companies that are putting out different ads. And I came across one the other day, and they have one ad running on their page, and it says they launched it in March of 2020. And I'm just going out on a limb here and saying that their pricing, their offers, it's probably a little bit different than maybe it was in March 2020. We live a little bit of a
they've probably been optimizing it over time.
Right. So that's just one example of, you can't just launch it and then just let it sit and expect a ton of success. So
yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Because I think a lot of people get magic bullet mentality when they hear about something like lead generation campaigns on Facebook. They're like, oh my gosh, this is going to make me rich. I'm going to launch this tomorrow. And then the reality sets in, or the frustration sets in of it didn't work the first time. And I want to jump back to like hanging out where your people hang out. Like deeply knowing and understanding your customers is crucial to your success with these type of lead generation campaigns. You need to know like the challenges that they're facing in their day-to-day life as it relates to your business or service. You need to know deeply what their financial situation is, where they live, what the weather is like, especially for those that are running ads for an HVAC company. Hello, we don't want to be running furnace tune-ups if it's like 78 degrees outside, right? Because we know in the Midwest, especially in Michigan, I was just talking to my parents the other day, and my dad was like, yeah, it was like 30 degrees. And then all of a sudden it was 78 today. I don't know what's going on. So we need to be paying attention to all of those details and really deeply understand what our customers are experiencing, including the weather, when it comes to putting together those offers as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think having some level of understanding the benefit of the offer in the copy as well, because I think about it as I would call myself more of a newer homeowner. And so if I was completely blind to furnace tune-ups, AC tune-ups, I'd probably see that ad and I would say, why do I need a furnace tune-up? My heat works. We're living. We're fine. But if you tell that story in the copy of like, hey, this is what happens if you don't get a furnace tune-up. Like, hey, how do you like being cold? Oh, well, I don't like it. Okay, well, here you go. So I
Yeah,
think you
yeah.
have to be able to tell that story a little bit in the copy.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Okay. We could go down a rabbit hole with all of that. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to stop. I'm going to stop us right there. So tell us a little bit more about automation. This is something that you and I think both really
Yeah.
like to talk about. Um, but tell me more about what that system looks like, particularly with this home service company that you're working with.
Yeah.
From somebody filling out this form, actually question before we jump into automation. Is there a benefit of using a Facebook lead generation form to collect the customer's information versus sending them to the website? Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think you can act on it right away, right? So you get a warm lead coming through a lead generation campaign. You know that that's a warm lead. I think a lot of companies, they go out and they buy these lists that they can contact as well, and that's a lot of
Mm,
kind of like shoot in the dark, cold leads. A lead generation campaign, it's immediate, and you know what they're looking for, right? You know the ad that they
yeah.
clicked on. It's not sending them to your website where
Mm,
they're kind of exploring around and seeing what they might use in the future. It's something that you can act on right now, and you can see a return on immediately as well, which
yeah.
I know that a lot of folks, that's a very important thing, is seeing the return on money that you're spending in marketing. Sometimes that's tough to do. So that's one thing that you actually
Yeah.
can lead generation, is you can see that turnaround.
Yeah, and actually knowing that that lead came from Facebook is
Right.
crucial to being able to prove that return on investment and say, hey, is it worth it, the ad spend, the campaign that I'm running on Facebook? I think another point too that I always like to mention to people is Facebook is in the attention business. They want to
Yes.
keep users' attention on their platform for as long as possible. And so when we run campaigns that drive traffic away from the platform and onto websites, the cost per convert or the cost per lead is going to, in most cases, going to be much higher there than if we were to use the lead generation form, because Facebook's going to reward us for keeping people on the platform longer. And
Exactly.
so I always like to tell people, if you're going to run a test, run the exact same ad, exact same call to action, exact same graphic, everything, but have one pointing to the lead generation form and another pointing to your website. See which one has the cheaper cost per result and the one that actually gets like the completed lead form.
Right.
And I would say 9 times out of 10, it's probably going to be the Facebook lead form is going to win over the campaign that's pushing directly to the website. But with that in mind, like if you have a website that then now automatically emails your team once somebody fills out the form there, it can feel like maybe a disadvantage for businesses to want to use a Facebook um, lead campaign and use that lead form because they're like, well, where's that form going? How does that work?
Mhm.
This is where automation comes into play. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so with this specific client that we're talking about, we mainly use three different connections, and that connection happens in a tool called Zapier. And if you're unfamiliar with
Love
Zapier,
Zapier.
Zapier, yeah, probably my best friend outside of maybe my dog. But Zapier makes our lives a lot easier. It makes the clients' lives a lot easier. What Zapier does is it connects that lead form to really any type of platform that you want, right? So the first thing that we do is we'll connect it to an email where the customer service reps automatically get an email with the name, phone number, email, and what type of service they want as soon as the person fills out the lead form. In
Yeah.
addition to that, we have it tied to a spreadsheet in Google. So it dumps into each column, it dumps in their name, their email, their phone number. And like you said, that's also a really good place where you can track if these are successful or not. We have a lot of
Yeah.
clients that have a system down where they have an extra column where they say called, yes, emailed, yes, booked, yes, or whatever the case may be. So we also send it into a spreadsheet. That way, there's a couple different spots that lead is going, doesn't get lost in your email. And then if you have a platform like a Service Titan or something similar as far as
Mm,
a CRM system that can tie to Zapier, we can dump that information right into your CRM system as well. That way your customer service reps automatically have that information in there. It's super easy to just click over and schedule them in your system. So really the main benefit of it is saving yourselves time and energy. And I think another thing is it's just immediate, right? I think we live in a world of immediate gratification. I always go back to the example of when we moved into our house here, I was looking at landscaping companies, and similarly, I filled out lead forms on either Facebook or on a website, and there were 3 out of 6 companies that I never heard from when I filled out the lead.
Oh,
And
so
so
frustrating.
they own my contact information now, and they did nothing to capitalize on it. 2, I got an email like later in the day saying, "Hey, we're busy, but here's a number if you want to call, and we'll talk about quotes," things like that. There was one that I got an immediate email from saying, "Hey, thank you so much for filling out this lead form. Our team will get with you shortly." I got a call from them an hour later. As you can probably see where this is going, I ended up going with them. And so we live in a world of like, hey, I need it and I need it now. So it helps in that way as well. But
yeah. And that's so important, because if you are running these lead generation campaigns and you're generating leads, but the follow-up isn't there, the systems and processes aren't in place to make it a smooth experience, not only internally for your team, but also externally for that customer, right? If that journey is not a smooth process, people are not going to convert into paying customers. If that lead comes in and you let them sit there for 3 days before you ever follow up with them, guess what? They're on to the next company. Because the reality is, in your example is so perfect for this. The reality is there's other landscaping companies, right? There's other HVAC companies, there's other electrical companies, there's other plumbing companies. We can do a simple Google search and find lists and lists and lists of other companies that can help us. But if you get back to me first, if you give me a quote, you give me a price, I have a positive experience with you, there was no friction in the process from going from filling out the form to becoming a customer, you've got my money. Like, you've got my money. I'm sold, right?
Exactly.
And we had a similar experience too, where, I mean, a little bit different than landscaping, but we were trying to find a storage place to store our boat. We live downtown Raleigh. We're like, we can't keep our boat in our driveway. Not feasible. We need to find a storage facility to store our boat. My husband called 4 different places, and one guy immediately we called in, he texted us back, which honestly I think my husband prefers too. So knowing that communication preference for your customers as well. Do they want a phone call back? Do they want an email back? Do they want a text message? He texted my husband, they coordinated, he emailed us an invoice, boom, done. Like a week later, one of the other places called us and we were like, no, like we've already since found a company, paid them, and towed our boat, and it's stored elsewhere, like again, immediate gratification, quick follow-up, as little of friction for the customer and for your team as possible. And I love that too, the connection into service tie-in or any other CRM. If that is what your team is trained on using, Zapier can allow you to plug into those systems and processes that are already existing. So we're not reinventing the wheel. And your customer service reps aren't like, oh my gosh, another thing for me to have to like figure out or to go in and do, or I have to go into a spreadsheet, or I have to go download leads from Facebook. Like, no, it's already seamlessly integrated. You don't have to worry about it. It's just like every other lead that's coming in. Like, they love that. They're happy. We're happy. Customers are happy. It's like, it's a win-win all the way around.
100%. Yep.
So Alex, what advice would you give a home services company, HVAC, roofing company, window cleaning, whatever it may be? What advice would you give a home services company when it comes to their marketing on social in general?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'm going to use a cliche phrase here, but of fish where the fish are. And like if your fish are on Facebook, which your fish are probably on Facebook, you need to be able to get in front of them. And if you have a social channel that you're regularly posting on, why not turn that into something that can benefit you and can generate revenue, right? And so not only being able to fish where they are, but like we talked about with the automation and immediate gratification, like you have to be able to have a plan on follow up. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that we still see is companies start running lead generation campaigns, or they have a form on their website, but they have no plan of following up. It's a, hey, I'll call them when I get around to it type of thing. And like you said, they've already gone somewhere else at that point. So I think the first thing is fishing where the fish are. The fish are probably on social channels in some way, and then having a
Mhm.
plan to follow up with those folks. So
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the follow-up, key, absolutely key. I feel like we've already kind of talked about successful campaigns that we've run or that you've run. Um, I'm just looping myself in there. It's fine. Um, but especially when it comes to these 13,000 leads that were generated for the HVAC company.
yeah,
Can you tell us some success stories or maybe some examples around a particular offer that it went over really well, or any stories that really show
yeah.
that return on investment?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually just recently looking at numbers from last month on the 0% financing offer that we ran. And so I was looking into one particular location, and we had a $200 ad spend budget on the campaign throughout the month. So
Cool.
$200 we're going to spend on trying to generate leads for a 0% financing offer for folks to buy a new AC unit. So
Mhm.
new AC unit anywhere between 5 and 10 grand normally. So
Yeah.
even more expensive it seems like nowadays. So
Mhm.
it's a big ticket item. So I would expect these, the cost per lead to be very high on this. So throughout the month, we got 14 leads. And then of those 14, six of them booked. So
Okay.
like simple math, if six of them book, let's just say for simplicity's sake, 5 grand per unit that they're installing, that's potentially, $30,000 in revenue in a month. And
Totally.
you spent $200 at the beginning of the month to get there.
Yeah.
So again,
That's crazy.
they have that process in place. Like this didn't happen overnight for them. This has been a multi-year thing where they are in their groove now. They know how to capitalize on these leads once they come in. But that's just one example of, in 1 month we had 14 leads, which on paper doesn't seem like a lot, but they're very good at their follow-up process. So they converted on six of them, and now you're
Yep.
seeing 150% or crazy return, right?
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
their, so
Totally.
that's just one example from this particular client. But yeah, it's crazy to
That's
sit down and actually look at the numbers, because ultimately that's what a lot of companies are looking for, right? They spend these dollars on marketing, and I think that, the brand awareness, things like that, that is all very positive. You have to have that stuff in your community. But you don't know what dollars coming in are coming from that. So if you put a billboard next to the highway, I don't know if somebody booked it because they saw that billboard, where
yeah.
this is a process where you're able to see like, hey, this happened because we did this. But
Yeah, yeah. I always tell people, social media is so powerful because we have the ability to actually talk to our potential customers, right? If someone's driving down the road and they see the billboard, for example, we can't have a conversation with that person. And
right.
that's what so many companies, they miss the mark on social. When
Mhm.
someone comments, even if they're just saying, "Oh, that looks amazing. Hey, thank you so much for commenting." Like actually taking the time to go and respond to comments, respond to direct messages is crucial to success because it's building that relationship with somebody. It's an additional notification that they're going to get when they log into their Facebook page saying that hey, the company commented back or they actually responded to your message. That's so important. We can't do that anywhere else with our marketing. We can't do that when we're running ads on Hulu. We can't do that with billboards, with radio ads, with any of that. But with social media, we do have the opportunity to really build that relationship with our customers.
Yeah.
And I think a big takeaway that I don't want people to miss of the example that you just gave is ad spend was $200, guys. That was only one of the offers that they were running to, I'm sure. I'm sure there were a couple of other offers,
Yeah.
but that was just for the 0% interest financing component. That's crazy. You do not have to have a massive budget in order to have success with these campaigns, it seems like, especially once you get it really dialed in on knowing who that customer is, where they're hanging out, what kind of offers are going to be enticing to them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems like there's a good system and process in place. If we're getting 14 leads, converting nearly half of them, and then those are turning into book jobs, estimates, and closed deals, and revenue coming in the business. And for someone that has probably a higher margin, like HVAC companies, right? You can kind of figure out too, and like fine tune, like how much can I spend on a lead, right? Like I'd imagine that varies between how much you're spending there, or how much you're willing to pay per lead there versus how much you're willing to pay per lead for like email list stuff, right?
Exactly.
Do you have any numbers around like about how much for like an email list lead versus like an HVAC?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So I guess this is another example that we can go down outside of just the HVAC example, is with the apartment complex. So when we started with them, we just did email lead generation to try to get folks on our email list. And, most months you're running right around $1 to $2 to collect emails. Once you're established, right off the bat, you're getting emails below $1, and they're getting on your
wow,
email list. But then we transitioned, and obviously now we're in the leasing phase. But last month we had 35 form leads on Facebook, and that was at about $6 a lead. And so as long
okay,
as you have that follow-up process, $6 a lead, somebody's spending, I don't know, $1,300 a month on rent. Let's
on
just
rent, yeah,
say, for example, of those 35 leads, you need a couple, two,
yeah,
one to get your money back, two to double your money. So
yeah,
as long as, again, you have that follow-up process, and it's going to be some trial and error. I think that the 0%, for example, I'm not a doctor, but 150 times your return,
yeah.
probably pretty good. But again, that's a lot of trial and error of like, hey, what campaigns work, what don't. Because sometimes you're going to put a campaign out there and people aren't going to respond. And it's going to be like, okay, well, is it the graphic? Is it the copy? Is it the offer? Is it our follow-up? Not really sure. So it's going to be a little bit of trial and error in there. But
Yeah, yeah. And I think the split testing, when you're trying to figure out if it's the offer, the split testing is key. You mentioned Facebook ads library. Y'all, if you are not hanging out and playing around in Facebook ads library, it's kind of like a black hole. So
yes.
set a specific time on your calendar that you're going to go and like peek around in there. But I love going and looking and seeing, okay, what are other HVAC companies or what are other businesses in the same area or region as my clients? What are they running? Are they running lead generation? What kinds of offers are they actively putting out there? How long have they been running? Like you mentioned, that campaign that had been running since 2020. Crazy,
Yeah.
crazy, crazy. Of course, it's probably, like you said, they've changed the graphic, they've refreshed the copy, but the offer in and of itself has probably stayed the same. So
Yeah.
it's like fine tuning that over time, and being like, that's working really well for them. Could
Mm-hmm.
that work really well for me too? Or something that's similar, or maybe something that's a little bit better. Um, yeah, I love going in there and looking around and seeing, just seeing what other people are doing,
Yeah.
spying,
Yeah. Very
if
easy.
you will.
Yes.
Well, awesome. Um, Alex, any other parting wisdom on Facebook lead generation campaigns? We're 4 minutes over our 30-minute mark, which I figured we were going to go over our time anyway, because you and I know how to talk about this. But anything else for our listeners today, whether you're tuning in live or you are watching this replay on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, if you have questions about lead generation campaigns, I really just quickly want to plug, throw those questions in the comments. We are always fielding, watching comments. Shoot us a DM, visit our website, uglymugmarketing.com. Shoot us an inquiry there. The questions will eventually make their way towards Alex or myself. Would love to connect with y'all there. But Alex, any final parting wisdom on lead generation?
Yeah, I would say that's the biggest thing. I think when you think about lead generation, for a lot of folks, it's an intimidating thing to think about or take on. And so if you have those questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us, whether that's a conversation that we have, whether that's we do lead generation for you, whatever that looks like. I want to make sure that we are a resource to you all. It's not something that you just wake up one day and it's like, hey, I'm going to start doing lead generation. So I think it's something that is a little bit of an acquired talent as you start to look at, hey, what metrics should I be looking for in ads manager? Like, what is a good cost per lead for my industry? So just know that stuff is not necessarily going to happen overnight, but there are a lot of resources out there to help you. So
definitely. Well, Alex, thank you so much for your time today. This was super fun. We're both drinking out of our Ugly Mug mugs too, I noticed. I love these. We need to do a giveaway. Of these mugs.
Yeah. I'll sign it. There we go.
Yeah, I know, autographed by Coach Alex. Alex is a hockey coach in Rockford, Michigan. Little subtle plug for his team.
Go Rams.
You guys go Rams. Is that the Rams?
Yeah, I think it's this or people do that.
Okay. Nice. I'm like, it's either like Hook 'em Horns or Wolf Pack for my friends in Raleigh, North Carolina. Go Pack. Awesome. Well, thank you guys again so much for joining us, whether you tuned in live or you're watching the replay. We appreciate you taking the time, and we hope that there was some helpful information for you as you are implementing lead generation campaigns for your company, whether you're in the home services, HVAC world, or you're in the just small business world in general, even medium, large size businesses, and you're trying to grow your email list. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to drop those in the comments. We will respond to you within 24 hours. Okay. I'm always quick in there responding to the DMs. If you want to reach out to us and you're like, hey, this sounds amazing, but it also sounds a little overwhelming. Don't know if I quite have the time to do all of this and handle it myself. Want to get more information about Ugly Mug potentially handling this for us. We would love to have that conversation too. Head over to uglymugmarketing.com, fill out our inquiry form, and we'll get in contact with you and schedule that free consultation to just chat, learn a little bit more about your business, where you're at, and where you're looking to grow, and see if we might be a good fit and a good marketing partner for you. Yeah, gosh, that's it. That's my spiel. Thank you guys so much, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.